Welcome to our third Filmmaker Film Watcher mini episode. I'm filmmaker Richard DiGregorio.
And I'm the Joker.
Greg Ralph.
Yeah. That too. Yeah.
So this is our third mini episode.
Yes, and I've just blown what the film's about.
So yes, we actually saw Joker 2, which is
Folie à Deux.
Folie à Deux.
Or, Folie for Two.
Which just opened this evening.
Yep.
And so
Here in Melbourne.
Here in Melbourne. And so we've just watched that and now we're here to review it.
Indeed. So why don't you get us going?
Okay. The sequel to the 2019 film Joker, and directed again by Todd Phillips, Joker, Folie à Deux, continues on from its predecessor with Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix, in prison for the crimes he committed. His mentally unstable Joker clown has now become famous in Gotham, and his court trial is televised across the city. As the trial happens, he continues his descent into madness, continually drifting off into his own head, into his dark, fantastical realm. This is due to him falling for fellow inmate Lee Quintal, Lady Gaga, who adores Arthur's bravery in standing up and taking action for being torn down by society. The film explores the concept of folie à deux, a French term meaning madness for two. It refers to a psychiatric condition where two individuals share a delusional belief, and this belief is usually transmitted from one person to another, often within a close relationship. As Arthur's delusions become contagious and his trial more like a circus, this spreads to others in Gotham City, leading to a widespread uprising and chaos. His mind begins to blur the lines between reality and his distorted perception of the world. Now, I can't talk about this any further without talking about the first Joker. When this came out, it really surprised everyone. It was more a study into someone's mental decline than a DC Universe film. I could really see why people were loving it. It was paced well, directed well by Todd Phillips, with glorious cinematography by Lawrence Sher. It had a wonderful, menacing score by Hilda Guanadotter, and a really wonderful, Oscar-worthy performance by Joaquin Phoenix. To many, it seemed very original and fresh. However, despite all these wonderful things, I myself found it borrowed too heavily from Martin Scorsese's King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. Joaquin's failed stand-up Joker was a real mix between the lead character Rupert Pupkin and Travis Bickle from these two films. The style of the film, the talk show with Robert De Niro playing the Jerry Lewis character in King of Comedy, the non-orchestral songs that played throughout, and the imagery borrowed so much from these Scorsese films that it just bothered me. But I also understood that the majority of Joker's demographic would not have seen these two films. So I did, however, commend the writers and producers on this smart business move. For the most part, however, the first film is very solid, with a screenplay that's well-paced, with an engaging journey for our lead. Now, moving forward to the much-anticipated sequel, I sat watching and just wondering, why? Why did this story need to be told? What was the purpose here? Technically, again, it is superb with all the same production crew returning for the sequel. But where was this journey? The screenplay was just lacking. There was so much plotting with long courtroom scenes simply recounting events from the first film. There was little stake in these scenes because we knew there was no way the court was going to find him not guilty. Much of it turns quite unrealistic when he's suddenly allowed to represent himself in the courtroom in full Joker garb. There are also many long prison scenes which don't go anywhere. It's all very long. And throughout all of this, the film is also a musical, which is an odd choice for this type of film, but I was really ready to go with it, loving this bravery. I'm also into films that delve into the fantastical. Now, making it a musical also makes the most out of casting Lady Gaga, who really does shine here. And I love her performance work. She was great in A Star Is Born and is also great here. Her and Joaquin share the screen beautifully, although Joaquin's singing is just no match for her.
It's true.
The fantasy set pieces are well handled, but due to the lack of stake for these characters in this story, we really didn't care. There are side characters by big names in Brendan Gleeson, Stephen Coogan, and Catherine Keener, who are all fine, but again, just go nowhere. So if the performances, the technical aspects of the production are standout, then why didn't I like it so much? It's the screenplay, as I mentioned before, and also the editing. The film is way too long at nearly 2.5 hours and could have done with some major tightening. I saw people get on their phones and walk in and out of the cinema. And I don't blame the social media, YouTube Shorts generation attention spans on this. I felt it too. Overall, for all the brilliance behind the scenes and up on screen here, it was just bland. And it really frustrated me. And I'm still asking the question, why? Greg, tell me what you thought of this.
Well, you've left me wondering whether Folie à Deux should be the name for our podcast. But beyond that, I've realised that there's a fatal flaw in these minisodes we started doing.
Yeah.
Because normally we try to not preempt until we get into the studio. We try not to preempt our responses to the different films because we've watched them separately over the previous week or so.
Yeah.
And then come in and we launch fresh into it. But the problem now is we sit next to each other in the cinema and our response tonight was pretty damned obvious.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So it won't be any surprise to you, Ricardo, when I say I think this film commits the worst sin in Hollywood, which is it's tedious. It's a bit over 2.25 hours, but... You had to nudge me awake 2 or 3 times during the film, and I actually had a nap today, so I should have been raring to go, and I was just nodding off.
Yeah, and then that's
everything
not
you
good.
said, I think, is spot on. So I had some dread sense in the beginning of the film. What's Fleck, the Joker, what's he going to do? There's an early scene where they're shaving him, and I kept thinking, where's the razor blade going to end up?
Yeah.
How's he going to use it?
Yeah, so did I, actually.
In the early stages, that's the sense I had. As I had towards the end of the first Joker film, which I only saw a couple of weeks ago in prep for this session. And unlike you, I'm not a fan of Joker 1. I think it's a much better made film.
Yeah.
But I found it a bit nasty and nihilistic. And for both films, one of the questions I'm left with is, why is this a film about the Joker? It's got almost nothing to do with the DC universe. In the first film, they threw in a few references to young Bruce Wayne.
Of course they did,
who's much younger. So you kind of think, how do they ever become enemies? Nemesis. And in this one, you get character thrown in of Harvey Dent.
Yes.
Who's the lawyer. And nothing happens with him. It's kind of like these stories, well, not so much this new one, but the first one could be quite a reasonable film in its own right, but it's got no reason to be a DC story. And as someone who grew up as a DC kid, I just found that really annoying.
Yeah.
I'm happy for different interpretations of him, but the lack of relevance, I think, is a real issue to
But I think
those
that's
stories.
what stood out with it, though. I think in the first one, that's what stood out with it, because not many people expected a Joker film to be like that, it's very unlike any DC or superhero.
But there's no need for it to be a DC film, is my point.
Yeah.
But I have to say, the first Joker film at least held my interest, and this one just didn't. But having said that, there were some moments where I thought we had kind of sneak peeks of what could be a better film. And so I've written myself a little list.
Yes.
So the first one was the opening of a Looney Tunes style cartoon.
I love that.
Yes.
I thought it was really... Look, it started well. The actual film started really well, and I was really enjoying it.
And so this cartoon that you see, which is labelled as being made in 1983...
Yeah.
It does a good job of suggesting that there's a shadow self to this guy, and that maybe the shadow self in that duality is the more dangerous creature.
Yes.
But here's a bit of trivia.
Yeah.
Because I got very excited when I checked something just after the film finished.
You did.
Who made the animation?
Who did?
It is Sylvain Chomet.
Yeah.
Who is the writer and director of a 2003 film that we did way back in season 2, episode 3.
Which one?
The Triplets of Belleville.
Really?
Yes,
Really?
yes.
Right.
And
I was about to say that.
And he also made a film which I've only seen bits of, which is 2010's The Illusionist, which was the cartoon completion of a Jacques Tati screenplay.
Yes.
So you got a real pedigree in the start.
Yeah, amazing. I did notice it was beautifully animated.
Yeah, that first bit was a really different kind of opening.
I almost wanted it to continue, quite honestly.
And left you thinking, oh gosh, where's this film going to go? In a good, exciting kind of way.
Yes.
I like the little moment when you first get I think it's the first time you get an insight into the Joker's different perception of reality when he's being escorted by 4 guards from one prison building to another in
Yes.
the rain under 4 black umbrellas. But when he looks up, there's suddenly 4 different colours like the umbrellas of Cherbourg. It's green and yellow, orange, whatever.
Again, there's technical brilliance here.
Yeah, there are flashes of brilliance.
There really are, and I really. I love what the ideas were. And like I said, I commend its bravery. I loved that it was going into a musical. I thought, that's interesting. And I love the casting of Gaga.
I'll come back to the musical part in a moment. Yeah. I'm still going through my little list.
Yeah, go for your list.
The flaming piano, when they're watching the old movie musical.
Yes,
that's
yes,
entertainment.
yes.
There's a piano that catches fire. I really liked the scene with the testimony of one of the people in the courtroom, who was the Gary Puddles character.
Yes.
Played by Lee Gill, who, for those who have seen the first film, he's the shorter ex-colleague of the Fleck character who witnessed his first big savage murder, personal murder in the film. His testimony about the impact on him was really interesting, in terms of story and character.
It was... And I really, again, I liked his performance in that moment. But again, the courtroom scenes just were like I knew.
Yeah, but that's why it stood out, because his was interesting.
It was, but the other,
but it was the exception.
It was just all telling about what happened in the first film. And I just, where's the stuff?
There'd be smarter ways of doing that kind of recap. There was. I'm just being careful about spoilers here, but there's a big event right towards the end of the film.
Yeah,
in the
don't
courtroom.
don't say.
And then there's a sustained take that takes place after that, follows Fleck.
Yes.
That was, again, really interesting.
Yes, I agree.
In
fact, that was an amazing moment, actually, and I thought, wow.
When it happened, and then the aftermath.
Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
So you get these glimpses of a much better film, and you're right, it's story, and editing and so on.
It's tight, and it's going to be tight. It could have been at least 45 minutes. You could cut that a lot out, and
actually had more of the Lady Gaga character, because she was a bit off screen.
She was, and that could have been utilised, because she is wonderful. Well, I love her. I thought
great. Both she and Joaquin Phoenix did great jobs as actors.
Oh, yeah, completely.
But I actually did not care at all about their characters.
Yeah.
I didn't believe their relationship. It was more statement of, I think you're really good.
No, I disagree with that. I think their relationship, I felt them as her finding him, finding their equals together. I did get the
only because she said it. Well, actually, here's my theory, having seen the film. Who is Folie à Deux referring to? Is it Arthur Fleck and the Lady Gaga character?
Yes.
Or is it the two sides of the Joker?
No, I think it's...
Well, I think there might be a deliberate play there going on.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, interesting take. I think it's
the madness of two.
Yeah, true.
It could be the two sides of Arthur.
That's true. Okay.
But look, despite what you were saying a moment ago about it being a musical and all the PR promotion stuff about that, I would not call this a musical.
Yeah.
Particularly because in more modern musicals, songs typically serve one or more, I think, 4 functions. So celebration of a moment for the characters and or the audience, and celebration in a joyful or sorrowful way. They're used to move the story along.
Yeah.
They're used to move the audience emotionally.
Yes.
And or they're used to give insight into a character or situation.
Okay.
Right? Pioneered perhaps by some of those last ones in my little list, by people like Oscars and Hammerstein, for example, who made the songs more about character and moving the story along rather than hey, let's do a song and dance number now.
Yeah.
I would say none of those were happening in this. And the fact that they were using old show tunes, basically, sort of, I think mainly from the sort of the 60s and 70s.
Which don't really hold much meaning to the story at all.
And even though they sang them,
yes,
I think Dennis Potter did it much better. So you look at things like The Singing Detective, Lipstick on Your Collar, Pennies from Heaven, where the characters are lip-syncing rather than singing. But that made more sense in terms of story, reusing those old songs. Whereas I was thinking there would be more original songs in this. And apparently there was an original song written and sung by Lady Gaga called Folie à Deux, but only because I read the end credits. I don't actually know, I don't know when that happened.
Yeah.
Look, it was really good to see that Phoenix can actually dance. So not only the tap dance number...
he's got move. He can move.
He's a mover. But not only the tap dance number, but also when they're doing this dance on this scene, I thought, this has got real promise. They're dancing on the rooftop of the Arkham Asylum in Hollywood old-style musical clothes to some sort of, That's Entertainment era song, whatever it was. I can't remember what song it was. And they're dancing very lyrically under this huge full moon. And there was a moment when you would expect her to be a good dancer because of her background, her performance and so on. I wasn't so aware that he was, but he just did this move at one point. I thought, that guy can move. So there were flashes in this film,
Oh,
but it never gets there.
There is absolutely. But I just think it's lacking the development in its story. And again, I just want to know why this was the story that they wanted to tell for this character.
And what was Steve Coogan doing in the film? Like his character.
I don't know. Again, I don't know.
Right.
I'm asking why a lot.
So in that opening Looney Tunes kind of cartoon, did you notice the movie posters on the walls?
Oh no, I didn't. What were they?
So there were, whereas the whole thing was done in that, and very well done too, the way they caught Joaquin Phoenix's character of the Joker as a cartoon character.
Oh, very well.
Really worked.
Oh yeah.
So everything was animation, but at various points in the story, in this TV studio's hallways, and I think one of the studios, there were posters which were actually images of the original posters. And all of them were old Hollywood musicals, like Pal Joey, and I can't remember the ones were off the top of my head, with one exception. And the exception bothered me because I feel like now I'm missing something. Chaplin's Modern Times.
Okay.
Can you see a connection?
I can't. I can't see a connection
in
that, actually. And it's one of my favourite Chaplins.
I was also very struck, I know, that's why I asked you. I was also very struck by, early on in the film, when you saw Joaquin Phoenix's body as being completely emaciated.
Yes.
The sticky outy shoulder blades and
like
the
first
spine.
one.
Yeah, but more so this time. Apparently he lost 24 kilos through diet and, quote, under medical supervision, unquote, to do that. And Gaga apparently did similar kinds of things. But I looked at his body and thought, I don't know about medical supervision because I feel quite concerned about your wellness because when they do a great job, you really get a sense of this guy.
They do, and Christian Bale did it in The Machinist as well.
I haven't seen that,
and that when they do that, I mean, they do put themselves through a physical, it's big for them, health wise. But I'd like to know what you're going to give this.
Well, hand on heart, I cannot recommend this film.
Okay.
So I'm I was tempted to go a bit lower. I'm giving this 4 out of 10.
Yeah, okay.
I was just completely disengaged. I thought the leads, by and large, acted well.
Oh, yeah. Everybody did.
Yeah, but despite their efforts, I didn't care about the characters. I didn't believe in their relationship, as I said. And I just felt they were let down by the long, drawn-out, non-absorbing nature of the story.
Yeah. I'm giving it a 5.
Okay.
Again, it frustrates me no end as a filmmaker to see such brilliance. I mean, everybody pulls together. It's so hard to make a film and for everybody to work so, it's technically so well done. And I think if you're going to see it, go in with the thought that it is quite long. So so don't think it's not as tight as the original. So don't expect the original, and you might find something different there, and just appreciate it for its technical brilliance and try and get into the characters as much as you can. But I still think it falls flat there, and so that's why it just gives me a 5. I was disengaged quite a bit, and to see others being the same way, I
would actually say don't bother. I'd say
no. I won't say don't bother. I don't think it's don't bother.
I do understand the difference between you and me.
Yeah.
It's not a Folie à deux yet, but it's. I would say don't bother. Wait till you watch it at home. But the risk then is, if I'd watched this at home, I probably wouldn't have finished.
Yeah.
I was so bored by it.
Yes, yeah.
And then, I said before, just nodding off a couple of times because there was just nothing to hold me. And I after the start of the film, I kept thinking, where's this going? And your big question, why?
I agree.